Welcome, everybody, to the Beauty Mind webinar. We have an amazing interview today with Lauren, who we'll introduce in just a second.
Hey,
How you doing now?
I'm good. How are you?
Amazing. And we'll say what's up to Lauren, too. How you doing,
Hi,
Lauren?
Lauren.
I'm doing well. How are you guys this morning?
Fabulous.
Amazing. Yes. This is our Beauty Mind webinar. Appreciate you being on today. Every Monday we start off with a webinar to really shift people's minds. In this current age of the beauty industry and really any industry, it's so important to really hit that week off right, continuously educate, learn from other people that are thriving in the industry. So we can't wait to get into your story. And so we have our Beauty Mind webinar every Monday. We also, our newsletter comes out on Saturday to really help people get ahead before and plan their social media content, help them understand what's going on in the world of social media. And this past week, we had shared one of our very own, Jai Simmons. She's a stylist and happens to be my girlfriend.
A fashion stylist, not a hairstylist.
Correct, right. So still in the beauty world. And we talked about how one of her videos went viral, landing her a brand deal this past week. So she doesn't have a huge following on TikTok yet, under 10,000, but it's slowly growing to get ahead of that. But she did a TikTok strategy that we're seeing is really working for a lot of people, which is something really interesting within your profession to keep it on brand and some kind of simple text right over the top. Hers was, I quit my comfy salary job to play dress up. And it's her with a dress, this amazing dress. It got over 500,000 views. The brand of dress just offered her, it wants to work with her on a brand deal. Of course, a lot of followers, people wanted to see where this dress was from. I think it's almost 600 clicks just on to buy that dress. But why I say this is because people are going to see your content. So always trying new things to see what could really elevate your career. And you never know when that one video can take off and really change everything for you. She hasn't posted it on Instagram yet, but somebody else ripped it and posted it.
Oh.
And it has almost 200,000 views on that person's, which they didn't tag her initially, but one of the people that saw it on TikTok tagged her on Instagram. So now she's getting more followership on
Was it
Instagram.
on like a woman, like power, like what was it?
Like a woman,
Like an empowerment type of thing for like
no,
women careers, or?
No, it was I think somebody else in the stylist game. She basically rips
Okay.
a bunch of stylist, fashion stylist content and then post it, but she doesn't say that it's not her. So she has all these views. And but yeah, that's when you're doing something right,
The game.
people are gonna steal your stuff eventually. So
All about ability, right?
absolutely. So get your content in, put it out there, see what can happen. That's the best way to gain attention these days. But
As soon as I saw that video, I was like, first of all, it's a perfectly well lit video. Your guys' space is perfectly lit. And so it's just like the sun's shining in, the dress is like glistening in the sun. She looks absolutely beautiful. And then like the words on the screen, like I quit my comfy salary job to play dress up, is pretty much everyone's dream. So think about, something in your industry that would just make people go like, man, that's amazing, right? Quitting something to start something and being super successful at it. And that's intriguing because she didn't say what she actually does. So apply all of that and it will grow.
Yeah, I think a major transition in your life, personally or professionally, and that's what we touched on in this past week's newsletter. So if you are not a part of Beauty Mind yet, you can join on our website and get stuff like this weekly, and so much more. So, but yeah, Allison, you want to introduce and tell us how you met the guest we have today?
All right. So everyone, this is Lauren. Her name is Lauren Caronna, which is pretty much her Instagram handle. We'll put that in the description so that it's easily findable. But Lauren and I met somewhere between Instagram and Threads. I believe it was on Threads and then maybe connected later on Instagram so that we could actually see each other's content more than just words. But yeah, we met on Threads, and I've talked a lot about how I've been really active on Threads and meeting a lot of amazing people there. I think that the reason that Threads is different is because we are actually like, I don't know, it's like a new world of supporters over there. Would you agree, Lauren? Like, it's just like a new space.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more conversational today.
Yeah.
Like Facebook started out as conversational. Then we kind of went to Instagram as visual. and now Threads is really more, I think, conversation based as opposed
Yeah.
to market, sell, call to action based. It's more
Yeah.
relational. It's more relational, I believe.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like I've connected with just a whole new world of people. A lot of people that landed in our class last October? No, February. In February were people I met on Threads. And it's just like, it's amazing. I've loved it. So that's where we met. And then we've been connecting on Instagram ever since. And the thing that has drawn me to Lauren is that when she posts things, I'm like, I was just thinking that. I was going to say that. I wanted to say it just like that. So
I can
we were
say
like,
it right back at you because I feel like yes, absolutely. I feel the same way. I think that's
yeah.
drawn to your content as well.
Yeah, and just like we're both in the salon owner world, we both have teams, and although we're in totally different states with totally different, laws and cosmetology regulations and all of that, we have so many similarities. So, I will let you kind of just introduce yourself and tell everybody kind of who you are and what you do, and then we'll just dive right in.
So I'm Lauren Caronna. I have been in the beauty industry 20 years now. I actually got licensed March 31st. So a few weeks ago, I just hit my 20-year mark.
Oh,
And
wow, congrats.
thanks. I've kind of worn every hat in this industry. And I think this is where you and I have kind of related as well is, started out as an assistant at the very beginning. Then I went to commission. Then I went independent pretty quick. I was born and raised here in Southern California in Palm Desert. So I really kind of built up at a pretty darn young age. I said yes to everything. Then I went and did education with Alterna Hair Care. I traveled with them, did New York Fashion Week in 2016 with Alterna. And I've kind of worn all the different hats between assistant, commission stylist, educator, independent stylist. And then in 2023, so another backtrack, my mom had opened a salon in 2009. So this was right during the last housing, recession and housing crash.
That's
And so
exactly when we opened our salon, 2009.
yeah.
Crazy.
So, and I never had intentions of working with or for my mom because I'm a second generation hairstylist, but she was really creating something amazing. And the thing with that my mom really did well was connect to community. Like that was her superpower. That really was her superpower. She volunteered at local events. Like we have a thing called Paint Up Paseo Pink. It's a breast cancer awareness walk on the street that we're on, and she would get a booth, and she had, I think, a staff of 11 or 12 at one point. We had 11 chairs, and then we had a receptionist at one point. And so she had a whole staff, and we all showed up. We would do glitter tattoos, hair tinsel, braids, and all the donation, everything. So we would have like a price list for all those little things. And then all of that would get donated to the Desert Cancer Foundation. And we would do cut-a-thons. My dad also runs a 501c3. It's a drug and alcohol rehab center. So we would do cut-a-thons, and all of the proceeds would go to the men and women in treatment. So the thing she really did was give back. And that was like the most growth. That was
Yeah.
no other salon in our area was doing that.
Yeah, it's a really powerful stance to take in the industry to show that you're showing up for your community when a lot of people are just doing hair.
And those are just a couple things she did. Like, I mean, it went beyond. I mean, it was great. And so, that was the reason I chose to work at my mom's salon, because she really her whole salon was about community. So I can only hope to bring even a little bit of that, into my salon today. And I aim to do that. I'm still a newer salon owner, so I'm still working on that. But, so that's a little bit of my story. So I'm a second generation. So in 2023, my mom and dad decided to relocate. And my mom came to me and she had to talk with me, and she said, so, I've been in the industry long enough. I'm calling it a day. What do you want to do with the salon? So then I had to work out an acquisition with her. So I've been a salon owner since 2023. And it's been an interesting transition, only because when my mom started the salon versus today, how I run the salon, in 2021, federal labor laws changed, the ABCs, right, of the W-2 versus independent contractor. And so I think a big thing that happened, not just COVID, but with labor laws, that really changed to address misclassification,
Yeah.
right? And 1099ing commission stylists, which we all know is not
Hmm.
right or legal, but it is still widely done. I hear it day in and day out. I see it
Yeah,
all the
so do I.
yeah, it's really wild. But I've kind of been very I've been in a unique position too with the resources that I've had. My husband's best friend, he's an employment attorney, so I've been able to consult with him, and our payroll company that I use, they have an excellent HR department, and they do compliance trainings, and there's so many resources that I've taken advantage of that have really helped me stay and pivot, like stay current and pivot, because we do have to do things a little differently today.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
absolutely do. And like I said, my salon's opened in 2009 as well. I was just an employee in my mom's salon at the time, and then somewhere along the lines I fell into a leadership role. Um, but yeah, we've seen a lot of change between 2009 and 2025.
Mhm.
I'm about to, I guess I just celebrate my 18th year in the industry. So it's crazy. We're literally like
Awesome.
so aligned. You have 2 years on me, but
We
we have,
years of salon ownership. I'm just jumping into year 3 in June, so
well, based off of your content, it sounds like you are doing things phenomenally as if you've been experiencing it forever. And I'm sure with having a mom in the role of being a salon owner and watching her, you probably learned a lot. Um, my mom always had independent salons. She always had salons where people just rented a chair. She was
yep.
a chair renter her whole entire life. So we actually started off as a chair rental salon. And then we decided to change our entire business model about maybe like 4 or 5 years in,
Mhm.
and became an employee-based salon, and or a commission salon is what a lot of people would call my salon. But we're just trying to change up the lingo around here because as we've been talking about, when you say
Mhm.
commission salon, it puts all of the weight on the commission amount.
Yep.
And I hate that so much right
Yep.
now. I'm really trying to change the conversation around that because being a part of an employee-based salon or a role-based salon or a commission salon, there's so much more that goes into it besides the pay part. There's
Right.
so much more that goes into it. So I really want to dive into that first and talk about how you're leading your team, how you're motivating your team, what leadership looks like in your salon, and the different maybe struggles that you've ran into in California with all of the changes. Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
So when I took over the salon, the first thing I did was create my standard operating procedures. The first thing I did was look at everything that I wanted done day in and day out, and the policies and procedures that I wanted in place. So the first thing I did was say, like, what all needs to be done? What does it look like from the moment you open the salon to when you close the salon? So I kind of wrote all that out, and I just wrote it on paper, and then I sort of divvied it up. And I do have 2 employees. So it's pretty simple. The way that I kind of have it now, it's sort of like see something, do something. And when I've onboarded my staff, and I do have one leasee, now I had to be careful because I can't tell her what to do, when to do. I mean, I have to be very careful because I do have one independent stylist who had already been established. She came from another salon last year. She's been with me in July. It'll be a year now. So I have a staff of 3 plus myself. So it's a pretty manageable operation, which is, I'm still growing and I'm still kind of evolving. But I think it starts with creating your procedures and what your expectations are. Then what you do is, depending on the demand of those expectations and what's not being met, then you sort of divide it into roles. And I think you divide it into who's responsible for what, put that on paper. And, I think where I like having a hybrid model, which is what I have a couple employees and I have a leasee. I think the important thing is setting up the expectation while you're onboarding and letting them know what their job title is, and letting them know what's involved, right? And not just doing hair, but what is the side work. It's no different than any other job in the industry. Now, I think where employee-based salons are making a little bit of a swing back is we have newer generation, Gen Z and younger. they're not just in a position right out of beauty school to go rent a chair. So you have this new generation of people who are like, well, what do I do? Because when you and I started out, 18 and 20 years ago, because labor laws were different. Now, I'm not arguing the ethical part of it, but the boomer generation, who was really our bosses or the people that were our leaders, they got away with different things that we don't really get away with today.
Yeah.
And so, like with commission, when I was on commission, it was, hourly commission or whatever was greater. So like if and they went off like basically minimum wage, which back then was like $7 an hour, right?
Yeah.
So if I made less than what the equivalent of $7 an hour was, I would just get the hourly, or if I got made more commission, I would make the commission, right? So the owner really had a little more flexibility, and they could pay them. It was still based on what they could, what the stylist would produce, right? So regardless, but in today's world, like in California, I have to pay my stylists for every minute they're here in the salon. So I still have to time keep for them, regardless if you call it commission or not.
Right.
Right. So I think just pivoting our thought about how we compensate stylists. And then the other portion I want to say is no other industry. So when you and I were independent, I had a paper book. I did not have a digital booking system.
Yeah. We had paper books too, man. The whole desk was covered with everybody's paper book.
We had paper books, the at a glance, little paper books. And I had client record cards in my little binder. So if and when I ever needed a salon, I only switched salons, I think 3 times ever in my whole career, really. I could take my just little paper binder. There was no like blocking somebody out of a booking system to get client information. Right. I mean, there was just different nuances that were not really, and I didn't have my own website as an independent stylist when I was 19. Like I didn't pay to have a website built because nobody did that.
And there was no booking link or Instagram.
It wasn't like I could just, I had business cards, and we kind of did it the old fashioned way, even though it wasn't that long ago. It kind of was, but because operating in today's world is exponentially more expensive. We can argue all the different reasons why. We can say it's about to get more expensive, whatever. That's kind of beside the point. This has been happening the last few years and beyond. I'd say the last 10 years. And it was really the last 10 to 15 where social media became a place for like real marketing. I remember, I don't know if you remember this, when I started and Instagram came out, people would say, don't mix your personal life with your business on Instagram. Like, don't, you want to keep it purely professional. And now the narrative has really changed. People want to see who you are. They want to connect with you. They want to hear your voice. They want to see your face. The narrative is so different, right? So the expectation of what we were meant to do and what we were expected to do in 2009, when you and I were doing the thing, is a very different. And no industry, no company, no business expects one person to be every role. And you shouldn't.
Especially not the successful companies. If we want to talk about like actually making strides and, seeing increases in revenue and all of that, you can't and you shouldn't, and you don't have to do it all.
Right. And so the narrative of go to school, be an independent because you're going to make more, or you're the freedom. Okay, that's fine. If you have a grip of personal support, of people behind you that can maybe float your bills while you're still getting that revenue higher, or if you're ready to delegate, because unless you have someone to do your marketing, unless you have someone to maintain your space, help clean and help do things, no one is expected to do the admin, the payroll and even though if you're doing it just for yourself, you still really need a bookkeeper because you want to do things right. You want to make sure that the IRS is not gonna come knocking on your door and seize your thing, right? So there's so many hats that need to be worn as a solo person. Now, there are going to be plenty of people who don't mind wearing all those hats. Like I personally did it. I don't have children. Yes, I'm married, so I have good personal support, but I had been doing it for many years. So I kind of worked up to that, right? Like I started here and I didn't have to wear those hats when I first started. And I've kind of slowly, progressively over 20 years was able to manage and stack on more to my plate, right? But a young newbie stylist can't stack all that onto their plate.
No, and I
And
have a problem. I have a problem with beauty schools right now. I have a big
oh,
problem. Like I used to speak in schools all the time. I loved going there up until about, I don't know, maybe like the last year. I have a real bone to pick with beauty schools who are not having this conversation with their stylists because or with their students because when I have went into schools the last couple of times, it's a lot of people who think that they should dream of being independent or being in a suite. And I'm not, I'm not saying just because I have a salon with a team doesn't mean I think that everyone should have that, right? Like I'm not saying that because I think all of these people should work for people like us. I'm saying that to be in school and to think that that should be your dream is just adopting someone else's idea of success. And this, unfortunately, social media has totally glamorized the idea of being an entrepreneur and being this independent stylist who does everything by themselves and wears all the hats. And they made it so sexy on social media that everyone
right.
thinks that they should want that. And there's not a lot of people like us who are saying, or even our team members who love being a part of a team, not working for someone else. Cause I'm so tired of people thinking that like work for yourself so you can have your own, you can wear your own dress code and say what you want to say and listen to the music that you want to listen to and have the vibe that you want to have and decorate the room and your own business and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, that's all really fun until you actually have to run the business and you don't have support or you have a really tough client that you have to give a hard
Right.
conversation to, or social media, marketing, the finances, actually keeping your books clean,
Yeah.
all of the things that go into being successful. So these beauty schools are taking these students on and teaching them the basics of doing hair and letting them graduate thinking that their goal should be. And I know this to be true because I've heard them say it themselves that they want to be in a suite as quick as possible. But what they don't realize is that's not for everyone. It can be really lonely.
Hmm.
You can really not see a profit. I mean, especially going into soon. You can run into the problem of not seeing a profit, but having no idea that you're not seeing a profit because you are. I have a class being hosted at my salon right now. Yes. Oh, right here. Grab that one. We are hosting a class for Milbon in my salon today.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
so yeah, so you have these people who think that that's what they want, but they don't realize that that's not maybe what you want. There are so many different avenues you can take in this industry and so many different roles that you can play. You can be the salon owner, you can grow to that, you can be in a suite, or you can be a part of an amazing team and not even know that that's what you want to be because no one's teaching that. No one's teaching it and no
Right.
one's being open about it. And salon owners, and maybe I'm speaking for myself and you can tell me this, but I am exhausted trying to tell people why they should be a part of a team. They should just see it, right? And they do. The right people do find us and the right people do
Hmm.
land in the salon and want to be a part of it. But I'm not here to go to a beauty school and teach that, not necessarily because I'm a salon owner. It doesn't really come off maybe like is how I want it to come off. It might come like, oh, that's a salon owner. That's why
It,
she's saying that.
that could come off. I mean, I guess the word would be bias, right? That could be come off.
Yeah, yeah. And like
I have this.
I'm not biased. I saw my
And I,
mom be an independent stylist her entire life and
yeah.
not make the money that she thought she was going to make. And I see now as a coach, seeing so many people go independent or go into a suite because they think it's going to be one way and then finding out the hard way that it's another, but it's too hard to go back into the salon world because now you've experienced the independence and maybe you want your cake and eat it too. And it's just,
Or you
Right.
feel like that you feel like you can't you feel like going backwards or something. And
yeah.
so I think that's the biggest thing is like how
Right.
do we continue to educate the current beauty industry so people have all of the information to actually make the right decision for themselves and
Right.
to cut out the noise of society or what their parents are saying or what the internet's telling them they should do to really understand who they are as a person, understand what each of these roles is going to take, and then they can make an educated decision and then see. And so I think that's the big thing I think based on this correction that we're trying to find in the industry right now.
Yeah. Lauren, do you follow Stu Styles on?
Yes, I saw his recent post about going back to a commission salon.
Yeah.
And I actually I shared that. And what I find really I think the course correction that our industry needs, and you talked about like cutting out the noise of what everybody else is doing and not comparing. I really think one of the reasons I have a hybrid model salon and the way that my structure is built, I think if salon owners can create a growth path, and that's the thing, that's one of the key components I really think is kind of missing. I think many salon owners, and I've seen it, there are so many salons in my area, and I have friends that own salons, and then acquaintances from really all over. And I think what ends up happening is they feel, because let's just call it what it is. You can only do so many heads of hair a day, and you can only price yourself premium to a point to where, yes, you do price yourself out of your area, unless you are like, even if you are charging, I don't know, I'm just going to say $500 for a haircut. That's great. You're making that $500. Your volume is going to be so low that if you were charging an appropriate amount, even if it was exponentially less, you might thinking, oh, I'm only charging, 100 for the haircut instead of 100, 500. Well, you are then opening up more volume. You may be able to bring in more revenue. You might have to do a few more haircuts. But I think when people think of like charging, I think that's where it gets a little convoluted, right? So I just went off on a little tangent there, but my point was you can only do so many heads of hair a day. I guess that's where I was going with that. So you can only do so many heads of hair a day. So a lot of people think, well, I don't want to be an influencer. I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to open up a suite or a salon, and then a lot of times what ends up happening is they want to be hands off with their staff, right? Maybe they have kids and maybe they do this and they want the freedom. So they don't want to have to create those SOPs that I was talking about. They don't want to have to document everything. They don't want to have to manage or guide people. They don't really want to have to mentor. They want the benefit of being an owner and just leasing out a chair and then call it a day. And they think that that's going to supplement their income. And then they have this really harsh realization that doesn't supplement an income.
And not only that, but you can't control that environment, and you can't control a lot of things in that situation.
And in today's world, everybody wants to, the narrative of today's world is kind of like, never work a job that doesn't make you happy, or never hide your authenticity, which is all true and great and wonderful. So then you have this new generation of staff, whether they are a chair renter, leasee, or whether they're employee, you have these people who like demand this particular autonomy, right? So then you're going to have kind of a hodgepodge of what people think that is in your space, because there's no real way to,
there's so much emotion involved,
right? There's no but with that, it becomes blind leading the blind. It becomes everybody just sort of doing what they want, how they think it should be done, which is fun, which that's one of the
it's fine to an extent.
But I think what ends up happening is people feel that employee-based salons pigeonhole them and that they want to keep them down there, and that, oh, well, my commission's whatever the commission is, or my hourly rate is only my hourly rate. So I think it's up to owners of today. The way that I personally have my salon structured is, okay, based off the price point that I have, based on, my operating costs and based on the demand. So, I mean, all pricing is a supply and demand, right? So that's where the lowest price that I have is for like my most junior stylist, right? So as she produces more and as she gets busier, we have certain metrics, right? And I do the math. And as she reaches a certain dollar amount, so in California, I believe, don't quote me on this, I'm not an attorney, but this is what I was advised. So again, this is not legal advice, but in California, we have to pay 1.5 of the minimum wage plus the commission. It's not hourly commission or whatever's greater. It's actually
right. Yeah, because in Michigan, it's hourly versus commission, which is what we do in my salon. Yeah, but yeah, you've got completely different laws there.
Yeah. So with that being said, the way I structure it is once they reach certain metrics, then they make a higher dollar amount. And then once they reach certain metrics booking wise, they can have a price increase. And then once they reach a particular dollar amount, then I can tell them we can either continue to raise your hourly pay, we can discuss what the next role in the salon can be for you, whether that is like a training stylist position. So, like if we have a newer up and coming assistant, they could be the one who would be now compensated to train them and guide them and sort of be their mentor, right? So you can move them on up that way. Or a manager, you know, if they have great management skills and you see that they're a good leader, you know, you can move them into that role. So having them work up into a role, or saying, hey, you are doing so well. If you would like, you now have the opportunity to lease a chair. You're really doing great. You are now financially in a position and you have the retention. You have met the metrics and you've really done a great job. So I really want to give you the opportunity to have that independence. And because they've already sort of moved up within your salon, chances are you already set the tone of how they're going to operate in your space. And with the lease agreement, although you have no particular way, you have no specific way of telling them how to do what or anything. They can work however they want, they can charge whatever they want. You can also set up your lease agreement to where, again, not legal advice, and every business is different. I know this is going to be a kind of a uneasy take for people. This is kind of like telling people, like, you don't always need to ask for a deposit, right? It's going to be very similar to that, where I know now in today's world, everybody's like, no, I need a deposit because I want to make sure that they secure their spot. But this is going to be one of those things. In your lease, you can also have that at any moment, the leasee or the leaseor can break the lease at any time. So that protects the owner. So if and when things do go south, they start to cause drama and cause ruckus in the salon, you're not legally in the wrong for saying, hey, I do need you to exit the building. I do need to grab your things. This is no longer working. So then you're kind of no harm, no foul at that point.
Yeah.
Because at that point, if, like how you were saying, if somebody comes in and tries to make their own culture, they start to play the music that you're not really feeling is appropriate for the clientele you have, or they start dressing really just overly provocative or whatever it is, you are not in the wrong for asking them to leave. Whereas if you made them sign a year lease, then you might be stuck with them for another 8 months if they have that much longer on the lease, you know? So there's kind of a positive and negative, because, you know, at that point they could leave at any time as well. But you risk that anyway. Like no matter what, you know, any state it's all states are at will employment, right? Like any employee has the right to say, I will no longer be working here at any time. Like that, anybody reserves that right. Just like we reserve the right to serve somebody who's causing a client that might be causing a disturbance in our salons, we also have the right to refuse service to them, right? So it's the same. So it's no different than that. And I just think that as long as employees know that there is some type of growth path for them, then they don't feel pigeonholed. They don't feel stuck. They don't feel like, oh, well, I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. And I'm such of the belief of, again, I've said this before, but old principles and new practices. Like I think that because in California, we're required to pay hourly, that if a stylist doesn't have somebody on their books for the day, I do think it's okay in your standard operating procedures to say, if the stylist does not have somebody on their book, they're not required to come in. You can also add that they need to have a 90-minute window of when they can be booked. So let's say it's a Wednesday, they don't have anybody, you know, 9 a.m., somebody calls and says, hey, can anybody do a highlight? That stylist still knows they have to be available that day. They just don't have to be here. And if they get a call, they have a 90-minute window to get here. You know, so
I like that.
Also, you can also sort of, or you could be 2 hours. It can be whatever you want, a 3-hour window. Like that can be whatever the owner's discretion is. But there are ways to give people that freedom and flexibility while also setting the tone of what the expectations are. So I just think it really comes down to thinking about all those things, meeting the needs of the clients and meeting the personal needs of your staff. When they feel like their personal needs are met, they really are more willing to be yes people. When they feel like you have to be here Tuesday through Friday, or you have to work every Saturday, you have to do this, you have to do that. Even if nobody's here, I need you here because there may be somebody who called. It's like, that is such an old school way of thinking. That's an old practice. We can adopt a new practice while maintaining current business, you know, trends and consumer behavior, then we can also maintain traditional business practices that still are constructive to business growth while honoring someone's personal life, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important for us to put this stuff out there so that people can hear this and go, "Yeah, that's what I want. I don't want to be my own boss. I just want the option to choose my own hours or have more say in what days I work part-time if I want to,
Right.
or, not have to come in if I don't have clients." Like, they want all of those things, and I think a lot of people are assuming that you can't have that if you work in a salon. I've even had people say, "My salon is very flexible when it comes to that." There are certain shifts, but you can pick yours, and if you have kids that you need to drop off, like, no problem, come in an hour later, or if you don't wanna work every other Saturday, don't. Like, it's up to you, but you have to have those conversations and there has to be structure, but it's not come and go as you please. There's just structure around it.
Yeah.
You have to set that up with the owner. You need to talk it out and say, "This is what I would like." And they need to say, "Okay, cool. Let's do this. Here's how we'll make that happen." And there's more conversation around it. What I think a lot of people are wanting is to just be able to do whatever they want whenever they want all the time and not have anybody to answer
I don't
to.
care. I don't care what position. I don't care.
I don't care
There's
if you're the owner. That's not realistic.
the owner of the bill. Like there is no that there's no really no such thing. I
There's no
mean,
such thing if you want a well-run business.
Yeah.
right.
When you first took over and you came up with these new systems and processes, was this something that you were like, okay, I'm taking this on. Let me now come up with the game plan based on like the current climate of the industry? Or was this something that maybe you had been thinking on and thinking about evolving or helping your mother evolve? Or is this something that once it happened, now you've been evolving and then came to this conclusion at this point? Like, what's that process been for you?
I would have to say like kind of a little bit of both, you know, watching my mom and seeing what she kind of had gone through. Um, I think just having that unique perspective of knowing that you're always going to have to be hiring. There is no time when you can just not recruit and hire because at any point, and people don't leave salons just because you're a bad owner. People have life changes. Maybe they move away. Maybe they decide that this isn't their pack. I mean, sometimes people don't always just leave because they're like, oh, I'm going to go start my own suite or whatever. Like sometimes people just have changes. People, have losses in their family or they have to become a caretaker or there's so many different variables that can cause salon turnover. I think about every 3 to 5 years it's safe to say that most salons have some type of turnover, at least 50% of the staff, at some point. And it
I
has
can agree with that.
yeah, and it has not. So I think I went into it knowing that. So that's where I automatically knew I wanted hybrid. And when I went into it, I had my assistant was still with me at the time. Now she's a stylist and she's behind the chair. And I work my employees as a hybrid co-stylist and them behind the chair. So if they have a gap during the day, I have a downtime list. So they know what to do. Or if I'm doing I had a highlight and they have a little time between clients, they'll actually come work side by side with me. If I'm doing a base color, I'll put one side of the base color on, they'll actually put the other, and we'll get that client's base color on like in less than 10 minutes. We can just bust it out. So we work together really as a team. It's kind of like a see something, do something. And I have like at our front desk, I have our core values. The first thing I did was come up with our core values to answer your question. The first thing I did was like, what is important to me and my business? And then from there, I said, okay, as I mentioned earlier, I said, what does it take to run the business day to day? What does it look like from the time you open the door and turn on the lights and prep the salon to when you close? What are all the steps? So then I have a checklist. So I have a downtime list and a checklist. So not only is that in our protocol packet, like our SOPs, but I have a quick little sheet printed up that's hanging on the fridge in our break room. So to kind of like a visual reminder of like, hey, what time of day is it? What are the things that need to be done? So it's kind of a constant reminder, right? So I had my assistant. So she was still growing. She was still working under me, like basically just glued to my side the whole day anyway. So she really, I mean, she's grown up working how I work. in the last couple of years. She started with me very end of 2022. So I'm going on, gosh, we're in 2025. So I'm going on 3 years with her this end of this year. So I've seen her grow just so much, but because I was really her first example of leadership. So she just saw how I operated start to finish every day. So that's kind of second nature for her. And then fast forward, I had a stylist, one of my other stylists. She's now been doing hair for like over 10 years. She's really excellent. I mean, she is super skilled, and she was independent for nearly her whole career. But she relocated from Orange County out to the desert, and she didn't really know anybody. Her parents lived out here, and she had a big life change. So she wasn't just going to go rent somewhere, right? And when I met her through a mutual friend, she came in and I said, well, if you're willing to work with me really as a co-stylist, then I'll have you work with me side by side for about the first 6 to 8 weeks. And then really after that, just so you kind of have a feel of the pace of the salon, you learn the booking system. I have enough one-on-one time with you to train you, but you're also helping me get my clients in and out faster. So I have that spare time to show you everything. It makes it worth paying her, right? Because I have to pay her, even whether she's doing a client or not, right? So I had to make her kind of useful. And she was like, absolutely. And then when I went over the pay structure with her, as I went over it with you guys, and I said, hey, okay, these are the metrics I really would like you to meet. You know, of course, you are allowed to be independent anytime, because I know that that's really what you're used to. And I don't want to take away your autonomy. But these are the metrics I really think that would be safe for you to say, hey, I want to go back to. And she goes, do I have to be a renter? Like, I'm kind of enjoying this. And you know what? It's kind of that was last April of last year, right? So exactly a year ago. This was a seasoned hairstylist who's not new to the industry. And because she works side by side with me and her experience, I can throw any client at her. And I don't even have to be here in the salon. I know she'll take great care of them. But because she worked with me and I went through the growth path and the growth steps, I have a co-stylist 4-phase system. Would you like me to share those with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to tell you, like, I know you just kind of fell into the salon ownership role in the last few years, but like I've been doing this for a little longer and all of the things that you're talking about, like your level or your growth path and your, like you've just mentioned, the 4 phases of the co-stylist program, like these are very in line with everything we do at Mastermind Beauty. So like you're doing things right in our eyes.
I love it. Well, so the 4 phases I have are observation, and I don't start the calendar and like end the calendar. I do every about 6 to 8 weeks. I do 15 to 30 minute one-on-ones. So it's not really like I don't do like test outs. Like when you do summit phases and things. I actually have the whole summit program. I have the whole summit system. Like,
so you can kind of take that and modernize it and tailor it to.
I don't test them in and out. Like I'm not like video yourself doing a base color in under 20 minutes. Video
and upload it to Dropbox.
Like some of these systems, they have them like testing it out. And I'm like, I don't go that far with it.
Mm-hmm.
But the first one is observation. The second one is acclimation. So observation is that first 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, where they're just my co-stylist. They're with me side by side. They help me clean. They hold foils for me. They'll do base colors and they'll shampoo, right? Then their acclimation phase is when I can actually double book with them. So I could have them finish a blow dry or do a blow dry and curl while I'm applying a base color, or I can have them do a gloss toner. Maybe I will mix up the formula, or I will say what to mix. I'll guide it, but then I'll have them actually just do it. So that's the acclimation. Then the application is sort of the, I'm not even involved with it. Like I don't really work side by side with them. I can just totally double book, and I will have them do the whole base color. The client is still booked with me. I'm still serving them. Like I still get one-on-one time with the client. So that's more. Then the application phase. So there's observation, acclimation. Then you have your application, which is when they're kind of transitioning to being behind the chair on their own, and they don't need my guidance. Like I don't really need to be here for them to be doing clients. And then their production phase is really when they are fully behind the chair. They're building their clientele. they have enough skills, they know the service, they know the booking system, and that can really, I hope, can happen really between like a 3 and 6 month period. Like that I think is realistic. I think it used to say, oh, you need to assist for at least a year or two. Like really just find someone, which there's that's important too. Like I do think that the time is important. I don't think anyone needs to be in a rush. Nobody should be in a rush, right? Like whatever time that's why I don't put like a timestamp or a calendar to it. But
Everyone's different.
everyone's different, and I think in the interview process, as long as you let them know what the expectations are, and as long as you say, hey, like I will train you, I will teach you everything that you need to know to do the services that our salon offers, and I'll show you the different styles of highlighting that I do. I'll show you how I formulate. I'll teach you about our color line as we go, and I really have learned to educate while I'm working. I don't typically, I think as I grow, because like I said, I do have a smaller team, which I love having a smaller team. I really do. It's kind of like a little speedboat. It's like I can just pivot. I can make different changes really kind of quick when I need to. So as much as having this big operation is wonderful, and I would eventually love to grow. I mean, I do, because I'm only going to be on year 3. My goal this year is to bring in a couple more stylists, and I happen to actually get a lot of applications and resumes, which is really interesting because I haven't actually advertised that I'm hiring, just because again I'm still growing and I'm still finalizing these systems that I have in place. But it's one of those things that you need those few years under your belt, and then as things come up, you're like, aha, I need that thing. Oh, aha, I need that. Right.
I think that's when the best salon teams are built, is when you're not in a hurry to just to hire,
Right.
We always say hire slow, fire fast. Like
Yes. And
you
that's where,
just
yeah.
there's something beautiful about having a small team. We started out obviously very small as well. It was just my mom and me and my sister, a couple of chair runners, and then we zeroed down to just us, and then we grew from there. And when we didn't say we were hiring is when we hired the most.
Yeah.
And I think that it's also because I wasn't like the social media expert to begin with, it was Mark, and Mark was all the way in California, but he was becoming a part of our family salon because we were brother and sister. He was a part of our salon family, but like in a different role. So he kind of came on as like, teach me how to do our social media better. So when social media really started to blow up, especially Instagram, my team was constantly posting pictures of themselves at work. And we were constantly doing like mini photo shoots outside of the salon and just showing how much fun we were having at work. And everybody was just like posting themselves at work, to your point of posting personal and business mixed, which is another thing that we preach.
Yeah.
He kept saying, like, this is how you should be doing social media. And we kept doing it. And our team was taking classes from Mark as well. And then people were just wanting to work for us because they saw our team at work having fun. That's when people want to apply, is when they see you doing business and they see your team working and being happy at work. Not when you post up we're hiring, apply now, rent a chair or whatever. It's like, no, you have to actually like show what it's like to be a member of your team. Show what it feels like to work at your salon, not just say.
Yeah. And that's where I think, having a good interview process also. So first it starts with like the interest level, right? They have to be interested in your salon. They have to be interested in your space. They have to see sort of who you are. Then when they want to come in, they want to see if that matches, like if what you're showing is what the culture is in the salon, right? And so the way I've always interviewed is like, if somebody reaches out, I tell them, and I actually get this all the time. I'll say, okay, bring in a resume. I'd love to meet you in person. If you'd like to stop by the salon, we can chat for a little bit. And then the first thing I do is ask them what they're looking for. Cause I want to see, I want to hear, I want to kind of get a feel how clear they are, and whether they know or not. Even if they say, I don't really know what I want, I'm new to this. Like, even if they come at it like that, I just want to see who they are first. It's kind of, okay, first I just want to, okay, they're interested in us. I want to see if I'm interested in them. Then I always say, you're welcome to come in for a shadow day. I'll say, and of course, that it's on their accord. It's more for their own, at that point, they're interviewing us. So I kind of
Mhm.
position it like that. And I
Yeah.
say, I want this to be a fit for us just as much as I want it to be a fit for you. So I think if you can find a day where even if it's just maybe 2-3 hours, just come in, hang out side by side with us, see how we operate. I'll let you look at our employee handbook and see if that's in alignment with what you're looking for based on what we talk. So if after I meet them, then I have them come back in, do a shadow day. And then if they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, if that's the case, which is kind of what happened with my stylist that I hired last year, she was like, this is great. I'm totally down for this. So then I'll do kind of an official interview where I will ask the questions. I will set the expectations. I'll lay it out for them. Then I'll get into the real things and like the growth path, and I'll like to see how persistent they are. And that's kind of to your point of like hire slow, fire fast. And then having the things, in those SOPs of like, okay, what are the things that I'm going to document when you do, like maybe it's dress code, maybe it's talking, certain, maybe it's being messy. Those are things where you can like write up or you can like have a little touch base with, but you're not necessarily going to fire them over it, but maybe you're kind of like, hey, we need to talk about this. And then you need to set the expectation of like, hey, we have this in writing, you refer back to your handbook. Well, then you also need to have those things that are like automatic no's, this is unacceptable, you have to exit immediately. We have to also have those non-negotiables. So it's kind of like what the expectations are, what you can be written up for. Like maybe if you wear like a crop top to work one day, or maybe if you wear like a little short skirt where it's a little bit questionable, I may not fire you over it. It just may not be that's something that I expect.
There's
Yeah.
certain things we can train.
There's some
Yeah.
things there's some things that like that are just gonna happen. Like unless like unless it's a true like something like hate speech, or unless it's like um you
I'm thinking of all the scenarios if I had to fire people over, but I'm not.
yes,
I'm
yeah.
just-
I'm trying to keep it simple here and not go on a tangent. But you get
Yeah.
what
But that's the
where
thing,
I'm
and
going
but
with.
that's why I love that you communicate that. You have your systems and processes, and what that's the great thing about being in business for every year that you tack on top of it, because you fine tune your process, which mitigates the risk of something bad happening, and having that clear understanding and ensuring that you teach your team what this understanding and the expectations are so that they can actually live up to it, rather than us just crossing our fingers saying like, they hope they're a good person, they should know this, they don't know
Right.
anything, and don't assume that. But so I love that you do that. And then yeah, it's just, as you are in business longer and longer, you just fine tune that process. And the other thing I love that you mentioned was leadership. Like, everybody is different, so understanding what they want is going to help you lead them in the right way. Because there's that old saying like, what if I teach them everything and they leave? And it's like, well, what if you don't teach them anything and they stay?
Yeah.
Right? So if you understand the
And
trajectory
that
that they
hit.
want, you can help them, you can have them hit, you can have them grow alongside you and then eventually do their own thing. But at least you can help them and teach them and lead them in whatever way is going to make most sense to them.
I love that. I'm stealing that quote, Mark. I've
Well,
I've heard it
it's not
before.
mine. So
Well, and I think that as owners, there's kind of two things that really have to happen. I think as owners, our vision has to be big enough to fit their vision. I think that as an owner, like if one of my stylists came to me and said, I want to be an independent stylist just behind the chair, I want to be able to offer that to them. I don't want to be able to say, well, I'm only this, and this is the highest my pay structure can go, whatever it is. So you're either here or, go rent a suite. Like I want them to be able to say, no, you know what? If you want to be independent and you only want to work 1 or 2 days a week and you don't want to have to even answer to me, but if they've, I don't like the word earned, but if they've had enough momentum in their career where that is going to be sustainable for them. And that's kind of my way of saying like, hey, I know how you work. I know what your book looks like. I know sort of where you've been at. So I feel comfortable leasing to you. Right. So that's where I want them to feel like they have that opportunity. Or if they've been here long enough and they say, well, I really want to go down part-time. I want to be an educator. I want to focus a little bit on building a digital business, or I want to do something. I want to say, okay, yeah, I know you don't want to give up being here part-time, but you also want to like start this thing. So I'm willing to be flexible with you because I support your dreams. And I think as owners, we have to be humble enough to have our vision big enough to support whatever they are dreaming of. And I think for us, we have to be also willing to pivot that, like for ourselves. Like there's going to be seasons where, like I've started to scale back behind the chair because I do need and want that extra time for marketing, and hiring, and I want to be able to run the front desk a little more because my next step is going to be hiring a front desk manager, concierge, salon success role. Like that's one of the next things I want to hire aside more stylists, because that's really where I'm focusing on, working at the front desk. Because if I can get those processes and procedures sort of documented and written down, then I can pass them on to the next person. But there may be a season where, again, life changes and I don't manifest any of my stylists leaving. They're all excellent. And I can truly say this, I have such an awesome team. But if for whatever reason one of them happens to have a big life change, and like even my other stylist that moved from Orange County, she didn't leave that other salon because she didn't like that other salon owner. She just relocated. So you always have to be prepared for that. So like I'm prepared to jump back into the chair 5 days a week, or like I have to be able to learn to pivot. So like there's going to be seasons where I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to book myself lighter, and I'm going to have to just tell clients that I'm referring out to another stylist, or that I'm reducing my hours, and whatever that has to look like. And if it gets so overwhelming, then that can possibly mean a price increase. But I don't like to do that prematurely, because sometimes you have these influx of busy seasons and all of a sudden someone thinks, I'm so busy, I need to raise my prices. And it's not always the case. You have to look at like.
No, I was just going to say, I love talking to people like you, because I think we get so wrapped up in where we are at the moment. Like I have the front desk team and I have the larger, like the larger team, and a lot of these things that I've been through in my journey as a salon owner, you kind of like forget, you get so wrapped up in the current world that you're in, the current state that you're in, that you forget about the journey. And talking to you has reminded me of the journey. And it's so important to pivot our ways through. A lot of the things that you're saying that you're implementing now are things that I'm implementing again now, right? In this current world that I'm in, or this current state of salon ownership that I'm in. But there are things that I did in the beginning as well, and have pivoted the way through and changed over time. And we get so wrapped up in what we're doing right now that we forget about the processes and about, just evolving altogether. We're going to wrap up in just a minute. So I could talk about that all day. I was like about to go on a little tangent.
Well, my favorite thing is learn to plan and learn to pivot. Like, so, and I think that it's like, write your goals in pen, but your strategy in pencil.
It's so true.
It's going to have to change. And like, you never know when you're going to maybe lose one or two of your front staff, your front desk staff. And maybe you're going to have to say, oh shoot, well, nobody's going to be here Monday through Wednesday. Maybe I'm going to have to be the person to do that as an owner.
Literally me last week.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think that it's being willing to kind of delegate or jump in.
And have an open mind. Just having an open mind about it, and not feeling so stuck in your ways, and realizing that there are so many different paths that we can take as salon owners, and different approaches that we can take. And we don't always have the right answers. And sometimes we have to change what we decided. And it's just so important to keep an open mind on that. But all right, so we're going to wrap up for today. I feel like we need to have you back to talk about the client side of things, because I want to talk about that too.
Okay.
Of course, we could talk about leading a team all day long. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Mark, do you have anything else you want to add to this conversation, or Lauren?
No, I'm so grateful to be here. This was such an awesome conversation. Like this, I feel so like having conversations like this just keeps me inspired.
Same. Mark, do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, congratulations on everything that you're building. It's really awesome to see, and we'll continue keeping tabs. What is your social so everybody can follow you?
So my personal social is Lauren.Caronna, and my salon social is LO_maintenance hair co. My
Yes, yes.
salon,
And we'll put those in the descriptions as well.
yeah, my salon's
Absolutely.
name is Low Maintenance Hair Co.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
So next
it.
time you're out here, we have to go drive down and check it out.
I
Yeah.
know. I was just thinking that I don't think I have any trips planned to California right now, which is odd. I always feel like I have at least a trip planned or a flight booked. But yeah, definitely next time I'm there, we will make a trip to see you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you,
Awesome. Well,
Lauren.
Thanks for having
yes.
me.
Thank you so much for joining us, and I will talk to you soon.
Ciao, ciao.
Have a good one.
See
Peace.
ya.
Bye.